One Tuesday night in 2013, around 11:00 p.m., I found myself strolling down a poorly illuminated street, heading home from work. My car was undergoing repairs, leaving me with no choice but to cover the 3-mile distance on foot each day. Fortunately, the journey typically took just under an hour, ensuring I reached home before the stroke of midnight. Living in a quaint town nestled in southern Indiana meant that post-10 p.m., the roads were virtually deserted, save for the occasional passing trucker en route to Indianapolis. About a mile into my walk, I turned onto a dirt road. My house was located off the usual paths, necessitating a journey through several dirt roads encircled by forests. Just as I was making the turn, I heard the distant hum of a motor slowly growing louder. Looking back, I noticed a van about a quarter mile down the road I had just left, creeping forward without its lights on. Initially, this didn't seem unusual to me. In my town, there's a dealership known for selling used cars and vans, often with some parts not working, like broken headlights. I assumed that the driver was probably one of their customers. I continued my walk down the side road while the van still crawled along the main road. Suddenly, about 5 seconds later, the van's engine roared to life, and it accelerated rapidly, this time with its lights on. The sudden change startled me, but I wasn't overly concerned at first. However, my apprehension grew as the van neared the turn onto the side road. About 500 feet from the turn, the van's lights went off again, and it began to slow down. By now, I was genuinely unnerved. Trying to maintain my composure, I quickened my pace. I couldn't help but frequently glance over my shoulder to check if the van was following me. Then, my fears were confirmed when I saw the van make a turn onto the dirt road I was on. I was only about 500 feet away from it, prompting me to increase my pace significantly. Despite not wanting to look back, I glanced over my shoulder for safety's sake, and the sight sent chills through me. The van had come to a stop, and both the passenger and driver's doors were open. Fearing for my safety, I immediately started running as fast as I could down the dirt road. Moments later, I heard a sound that I was certain was a gunshot, ringing out not too far behind me. At that moment, I genuinely feared for my life, thinking this might be the end. In a panic, I veered off the path and dashed into the surrounding forest, seeking refuge behind a large rock. My heart pounded as I overheard a middle-aged man's voice nearby saying, "I think she went into the woods." To my utter dismay, the response came from what sounded like 3 young girls, one of whom replied, "Okay, sir, I'll see if we can find her." At that moment, my fear transcended my own safety. I was terrified of being dragged into their sinister group. I clamped a hand over my mouth to silence my breathing as I listened to the man issue a chilling directive. "Whoever finds her doesn't have to drink the blood tonight." My mind raced with horrifying questions. Was I stumbling upon some sort of satanic cult? Were these girls abducted? Was I destined to become one of their victims? Hiding behind the rock, I felt like an eternity had passed, as every little noise in the darkness heightened my fear. Just when I thought I couldn't take any more, the distant sound of police sirens brought a wave of relief over me. I remained hidden behind the rock for safety, but as soon as I mustered enough courage to peek out, I saw the flashing red and blue lights just outside the forest. Driven by a desperate need for safety, I ran towards the lights, screaming for help. When the police approached me, they asked with urgency, "Ma'am, do you know about this body?" Confused and shocked, I replied, What body? That's when I saw the horrifying scene in front of the cop car. The gutted remains of a young woman, naked and covered in blood, laid stark against the night. The van was nowhere to be seen. After the initial shock, I shared everything with the police, the details about the van, the man, and the disturbing conversation about the girls being forced to drink blood. The officers assured me they would investigate the matter and kindly offered to drive me home that night. Unable to sleep due to the night's traumatic events, I found myself looking out my window. To my horror, I saw the same van from earlier, creeping slowly down my street without its lights on. This time, I acted quickly and wrote down the license plate number. I immediately called the police, reporting what I had observed and providing them with the license plate details. When the police arrived, as I had feared, the van had already disappeared. What the police told me next still haunts me to this day. They revealed we ran the license plate number. It's registered in South Dakota. However, we've contacted other law enforcement agencies across the country, and they've reported sightings of a suspicious van with the same license plate tonight. One in Vermont, one in Nevada, one in Alaska, and one in Texas. They assured me, "We'll keep you updated if we receive any more information." After the police departed, I waited anxiously for their call, but it never came. I'm not one to believe in the paranormal, so I can only speculate that it was some kind of cult utilizing fake license plates to carry out their twisted activities nationwide. However, the truth remains elusive, and I may never uncover it. In light of the unsettling events, I decided to leave Indiana behind. Now, whenever I encounter something suspicious, I don't hesitate to make a swift exit.